All right. Hello, everyone. We officially have everyone here to kick off this space. Today's Twitter space will focus on the Polkadot Academy. Wave one has took place in the summer in Cambridge in July, and now we are preparing for wave two that will happen in January in Buenos Aires. Joining us today, we have Kian, who's a Parity employee and also an Academy instructor. We have Francisco, who is a Blockchain Academy alumni, as well as Angelo and Zoe. And then we also have Alexandra, who is part of the Academy team and preparing the Academy for everyone. So, just some background information. We'll pen a tweet here shortly over everything you need to know about the Polkadot Blockchain Academy. The Academy was founded by Gavin Wood, and Parity Technologies ran the whole first cohort that took place this summer. The Academy addresses the lack of skilled blockchain engineers and gives a holistic education program and onboarding engineers to Substrate and Polkadot's core technologies. The Academy will move across different countries and continents. So, again, over the summer, it was in the European continent, in the United Kingdom, and in England, and now it's going to Buenos Aires and for January 2023. And so we also have some feedback from students that we will also be sharing here shortly. Without further ado, let's dive into some questions. Some of you guys also added questions on Twitter that you wanted to ask, so we'll jump in there. And if there's time left at the end, we'll actually open it up for questions. So keep your questions and make sure at the end to raise your hand so you can ask them if they aren't answered. So without further ado, we'll start with you, Kian. We have a question for you. What are the requirements? What kind of hard skills for a software engineer would you need in order to be able to be part of the program?
So I think that kind of depends also on the Rust pre-course that we have as part of the academy. I think we're changing it a little bit for the second one, but considering that, I would say if if you're not doing the pre-course, the assumption is that you already have a fairly high level of Rust knowledge as well. So you should be like a good coder. No need to know much about blockchain substrate specifically, but general software development skills are definitely necessary. And Rust knowledge, as I said, kind of depends on whether you would participate in the Rust pre-course or not. If not participating, then that should also be somehow provided by your side. If not, we also have a Rust pre-course for those who are not really familiar with Rust but want to get started. But I think I want to emphasize again that the main audience of the academy are not necessarily people who are already Web3 engineers or blockchain engineers. It's actually, to as far as I can say, or to the best of my knowledge, a gateway for people who are good coders in other fields of software development or Web2 engineers or general software engineers, and they're good at it and they want to get into blockchain engineering. Did I sufficiently answer the question?
Yes, you did. And you did mention that you don't need to have be proficient in Rust, but what are some programming languages that are complementary, maybe?
Well, I can name, well, I wouldn't name another like specific sort of system level or general programming language, but I think if you want to succeed in the as a blockchain or substrate engineer, next to Rust, having JavaScript and TypeScript knowledge is also very, very handy. Namely because you would be able to build an end-to-end experience, maybe not perfectly, but more like a prototype of the end-to-end experience, like the blockchain logic and maybe some off-chain tool that interacts with it via JavaScript and TypeScript, and maybe some dApp, some UI that interacts with this, again with JavaScript and TypeScript. And the fact that you would be able to do all this knowing Rust and TypeScript, I think is a very powerful stack to be had. In the past, in the web, there was this analogy of, or this phrase of full stack developer, someone who can develop both the front end and the back end And there was always a few stacks that popped, and for a few years they were very hyped about how you would go about achieving this. I don't even know what is the trend of it right now, but if I wanted to take the same analogy to Substrate, I would say being a full stack Substrate developer means you know Rust, you know Frame, which is one of the things that you also learn in the academy, a framework for writing blockchain logic in Rust. And you would know TypeScript to build the off-chain machinery for it, including UIs.
Awesome. Thank you, Kian. And for those, I did say hold your questions to the end, but I see Twitter now has this new feature since the last time I hosted a space. So in the lower right-hand corner where there is this chat bubble, and right now it says the number 3, you can go there and you can add any of your questions there, and I'll be monitoring it throughout this. So if a question arises as a question's being asked, make sure to post it there, and I will check before we move on to further questions. So make sure to get your burning questions answered. Next question is for you, Alexandra. Will this academy be recorded for those that aren't able to take part?
Well, no, unfortunately, the Academy will not be recorded. We might be live streaming certain sessions, but no, it's an in-person event, and that's the beauty of it. So we really want people to experience the in-person opportunity to learn and to also network with the others.
Great. And Kian, we're going to go back to you. Oh, sorry. Actually, Alexandra, I believe we'll stay with you here. Will it be possible to have curated recommended resources beforehand, not just a list of topics that would be covered? It would be nice to start getting up to speed before the academy.
Yes, absolutely. We'll be sending also a syllabus for those students who have been accepted, and there will be quite an extensive information of where to look up a certain data and to read up and be as ready as anybody can for the academy. So you'll be well provided.
Great. And how many spaces are there in the academy? Are they limited?
Yes, so we have 75 spaces.
Wonderful. Now back to you, Kian. Finishing Rustlings before is enough in the context of Rust knowledge. Is that enough?
Hard to answer because I think you can finish the rustlings in vastly different spectrums of, or having gained a vastly different spectrum of possible knowledge. You can finish them by just vaguely knowing what they're all about and having managed to finish them, or you can have finished parts of them but have deeply absorbed the parts that you have done. It's really hard to say. I Yeah, I think if I want to give advice on like the Rust requirements, I would say two things. First is like the more the better. Like I don't think you can like overdo it, except some parts of Rust programming are at least for um, frame, which is what 99% of people want to use Substrate with, are not necessary, such as I/O or asynchronous work or networking or multi-threading and such. I mean, Rust has very complex and sophisticated abstractions, language features for dealing with all of this stuff. And but within frame, not substrate, within frame, you don't have access to any of this. So if you want to really come to the academy knowing that, yeah, I want to build a blockchain logic. I don't want to contribute to substrate directly. I don't want to like alter substrate. I just want to like build with substrate using frame, which in short means you're here to build a business application with substrate. You're not going to be needing some of the things I mentioned. So you can focus on the other aspects. But other than that, I would abstain from saying if you know this, this is enough, and if you don't know this, it's not enough. I think the more the better, and that's how I would put it.
Wonderful. And now we're going to hop into some questions for previous students and, in other words, alum. So, Angelo, how many hours would one need to commit daily? Is it possible to work and attend the academy at the same time?
Good Good question. Let me know if my mic is okay. Um, yeah, I would say that if you want to get the most out of it, it's kind of like a full-time thing. Um, Personally, I went to the academy and I was working for a parachain. I am working for a parachain team. Um, but I found it, my personal experience at least, I found it hard to, keep the same level of dedication to my job. So ideally, you would want to commit your full time to it. I mean, you can do some meetings here and there. Um, but yeah, especially if you're a beginner, there's so much to learn, and I think you'll be much better off like fully immersing yourself in the lectures and getting to know people. Um, I think it's a good time investment.
Wonderful. And Francisco, is it possible for someone who is just starting to code to become a Web3 developer in some months, in just a few months?
Yeah, sure. I myself hadn't done any blockchain work before going to the academy, and that month really brought me up to speed and got me from zero to being able to build an application for the final assignment. So even though I had some idea of, for example, Bitcoin or Ethereum, and I knew quite a bit of Rust, I hadn't done any Web3 work before, and that I'd say I got where I wanted to be, or more.
Wonderful. And this question is for all of you. Maybe we'll start with you, Zoe, because you haven't had a question yet. What have been the highlights, or what were the highlights for you during Wave 1?
Well, I would say one of the main highlights, obviously, well, I would say the two coolest highlights for me. One of them is obviously the people. I think it's amazing. Also, linking to your last question about keeping the full-time job while doing the academy, I would highly recommend to dedicate the full month, because I think the new academy is also going to be for a full month, right? To fully dedicate it to the academy, because like some of the topics that you will learn about during classes, and even some of the assignments will really require you to take some time to go through them after the lectures. So and that also is an opportunity to go and meet with your other classmates, right? And then like brainstorm, discuss many blockchain ideas, learn a lot, especially when you're if you're working with someone who's already in the field, right? They can teach you so much about the topics that you haven't seen in the lectures. So for me, I would say the two main highlights would be one, obviously the people, and second, the content. In some lectures, we really went very, very deep into the Polkadot architecture. So, and that was challenging, but also it was amazing. I mean, it was, yeah, very eye-opening. So those are my highlights.
Wonderful. Francisco, do you have anything to add?
More than add, I would highlight what she said, because I think the people are the chance to network with like-minded people and really intelligent people is really useful, and that also goes to the in-personness of the event. I definitely made some friendships there and learned a lot from my peers and from the people, from the instructors at the academy. And also I particularly liked on the lessons, I learned things I didn't know about cryptography, which were really mind-blowing. And I also enjoyed the lessons on the substrate architecture, the coding, to be really fun. And also as a group.
Wonderful. And Angelo?
That actually reminds me, hey Francisco, you're my buddy. There was a buddy system at the academy. where you would I don't know if that was the actual name, but you would get paired up with someone before the academy. You could like chat and meet each other there. So I think the community aspect is very cool. Also, I mean, I agree with everything they said. I would add that all the instructors were very how can I say attentive, I guess. Like whenever you had questions, you could go as deep as you wanted. I would say, unless there were like time constraints or something, but they would stay after the lecture. Sometimes you would have opportunities to ask them during like Q&A on weekends. So if you really, I mean, we cover a lot of topics. Maybe you're not into all of them, but there's probably going to be something that you really like, and you'll definitely have the opportunity to learn a lot about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, also to add
Wonderful. And we, oh,
yeah, sorry. Also to add as well as Q&A sessions that are, I saw a lot of people and also asked my own questions, getting really deep into some topics. The social activities were really a highlight for me as well, for getting to know everyone and learn from everyone.
wonderful. I do see we have one question here in the chat box, which is, what is the application deadline, Alexandra, for the second cohort?
Yeah, so I would advise everybody to apply as soon as possible. The application process opened last week, and we're already having our first interview scheduled for next week. So basically, as soon as we get our 75 students, we'll close the applications, which will probably happen in the first half of November, mid-November the latest. So if you're thinking about it, apply very quickly.
Wonderful. And so our next question, we'll start with you, Kian, but we're coming over to you, Angelo and Alexandra. What do you see are the main advantages of having the Academy as an in-person event?
I think that this came very, very timely, because if we see the answer to the previous question that the former students gave, everyone highlighted at least one of the main benefits of the in-personness of the academy, that people could form these connections, bond, friendship, networking, ask questions. And so I think we just heard the answer to some extent. What I can add to it on top is that I think also the learning experience would have been very different if it wasn't in person. I think the interaction between lecturer and students, or teaching assistants and students, is much better and much different when it's in person. And thirdly, maybe I can add that because of the duration of the program, like it's 4 or 5 weeks, I can really imagine that if this was going to happen online, motivations might have fluctuated or declined at some points. If I imagine myself participating in this, there are some difficulties to going to somewhere for 4 or 5 weeks as well. Like being in person has its own downside as well. But I think for the purpose of the academy, it's, in my opinion, absolutely better for it to be in person because of the duration as well. So multiple factors. I think there's probably more, but I'll stop here.
Angelo, do you have anything to add?
I would say that, like for instance, the final assignment was very intense, and just having that, how can I say, yeah, without excluding anyone, but like you kind of have that feeling of like brothers in war, like you're going through this hardship together. That helps you push through some of the challenges, right? Regarding like the stuff that you have to learn that's new, and sometimes you're stuck. I mean, if you were alone at home, I don't know. I guess motivations could like disappear. I don't know how to explain it exactly, but yeah, I think that really helps. I don't have too much else to add.
And Alexandra?
Yes, so Kian and Jello, I think, covered it very well. The only couple of things that I would like to add is I think it's also satisfying for the instructors, and Kian, you'll know it better than I do, but some of the feedback that we've received from the instructors is that it's actually very satisfying that when you are in a lecture theater and you are bringing across the subject, you actually see when something lands with the students, you get questions asked, and sometimes even challenged about some of your own ways of how you bring about the subject. So it's actually a quite a interesting way for the instructors to also learn from that experience as well. And definitely, yes, the community aspect is crucial and very important to us throughout the academy, and seeing the students sitting together, late at night working and coming up also with projects together, and also collaborations happen afterwards through the academy because of that in-person experience. I think it's absolutely crucial, and you can never replicate that online.
Wonderful. And Zoe, do you keep in touch with other alumni?
Yes, I do. I do. So that's the, I mean, I guess if it was online, I would still have made lots of friends there. But I really think the in-person experience cannot be replicated. The way you bond with people. For example, some students would meet to play guitar, have like karaoke group sessions or jam sessions together. Those things unfortunately cannot be replicated online, or even like working on the projects together, meeting at the junior common room or the student group, right? But yeah, I do keep in touch with many of my ex classmates. So yeah, that's amazing.
Wonderful. And speaking of keeping in touch with other alumni, Francisco, can you talk a little bit about you personally even had a collaboration with other alumni in creating a substrate workshop during a recent hackathon, didn't you?
Yeah, we worked with another alumni on a workshop for the Polkadot Hackathon Latam. It was an online event, but it's gonna have a closing in-person event on Buenos Aires as well. And we did a live coding session after explaining it was an introduction to Substrate. And so we came up with a fun sort of project, but it was just for a while because you can't do much in a short time span. But we coded to help the people participating in the hackathon to know how to build at least basic stuff in Substrate. And the academy really helped make us comfortable in working with Substrate. So it was pretty easy to set up and to walk everyone through it. We got a lot of questions, and I think answered most of them or all of them well enough. So it was really useful.
Wonderful. And Angelo, you previously mentioned this when we talked about working while doing the academy, that you actually work for a Polkadot parachain. Can you talk a little bit about the advantages for parachain teams or developers of parachain teams, current or teams looking to be parachains, in participating in the academy?
Well, for my case at least, I was pretty new. Like I started in January. The academy was held in July, so there was a lot of stuff that I didn't really understand about blockchains, like the holistic view. I was really coding my palette kind of like in isolation, and okay, I'll call this stuff, but I don't know really what's happening uh behind the like under the hood. And I think it really helps when you know what's happening, and to understand what kind of trade-offs you're dealing with as a coder, why you have to be mindful of certain storage operations, stuff like that. From the engineering side, it's really helpful, and also for the networking for sure. I mean, there's other parachain teams there. You can like exchange experiences, make good connections, perhaps even, set up some collaborations in the future for sure. I think there was a fair at the end where, some parachain teams showed up, and it's also a good opportunity for them to find new hires or people who want to, join the ecosystem. Especially after going through the challenges of the academy, I think that's a great place to, find people to collaborate with.
Wonderful. And Zoe, what does a typical day in the academy look like?
A typical day would usually start at 9 a.m. in the morning. Most lectures will start at 9 and end at 4:30. Some would go on for a bit longer. And in the middle, obviously, we would go to the college, like the dining hall, which looks super cool, by the way, because it looks like the Harry Potter dining hall in Cambridge. But that was amazing. I was like every day I was really looking forward both to obviously the lectures, but also for lunchtime, because I had such cool discussions there. I actually learned so much, especially from people who are building either on Polkadot or also in other ecosystems, or had the experience of trying to build in other ecosystems. And so and sometimes after the lectures, sometimes people would meet, for example, for beers, or to play guitar at the JCR, the Junior Common Room. And sometimes we would just get together to study. Even on the weekends, there were some people who were meeting on campus to keep studying, right, or building or coding. So that's how I would describe the day there.
Wonderful. Francisco, do you have anything to add there? A typical day for you?
Yeah, what the classes started at 9, as she said. We would have breakfast earlier, and also with some of the students there, we made a little yoga group. So we would start a little bit earlier to do some yoga and then start the day. And there, I think I already mentioned this, and Angelo as well, but there were Q&A sessions some afternoons and also social activities some afternoons. So the days were basically the classes and then an optional Q&A where we could get to ask questions to the instructors about different topics, which were really, really interesting. Or we would have social activities, which we would also learn a lot from each other, but were also really fun.
Wonderful. And Angela, let's go to you first, but it would be beneficial for all the alumni to answer this. How is the knowledge gained at the Academy useful to you and your work? And what has changed for you personally?
Oh, well, yeah. That's a bit hard to answer, I guess. I mean, I feel like I understand the stuff that I'm building much better now. I'm able to, make some decisions with more confidence, just like understanding what's going on under the hood. And also like at work, sometimes we have discussions of like what to do and what not to do. So having that knowledge now, we're able to have more fruitful like discussions of like what technical decisions to make and stuff like that. Yeah, I think that's it for my part. I'll let other people speak, but if I remember something, I'll interject.
Wonderful. Yeah. And as mentioned, you work for a parachain right now. So I believe like all the Academy experiences, definitely for you out of all people, extremely beneficial to your current work. What about you, Francisco?
Also, my story is a little bit different because I don't work as a Web3 engineer. I work on a software consultancy firm doing Web2 projects, but we wanted to get into Web3 and learn more, train our staff, so we could get more, so we could get projects on the space. And so now I have a lot more knowledge to create sort of this blockchain or Web3 department at the company. And we're actually now building a small seminar for of just the blockchain fundamentals to help people that might not know enough about blockchain but might want to use it on their business domains, so we could spread the word. And the academy really helped for that.
Awesome. And Zoe, how about you?
Yeah, I would say, for example, two ways in which this has helped me, or two ways in which I can apply the knowledge. Obviously, one would be building myself, right? If I would want to build, well, either a power chain or like a satellite chain. Well, I have the academy has taught me all the, I was gonna say basics, but it was a bit more deep than that. But also, for example, if I want to join a hackathon, right? It's really cool to know how to build on a modular blockchain. Like, Substrate provides so many modules for like governance, token, voting. So that's extremely useful, for example, in the context of hackathons or building MVPs, for example. And also, well, all of the say architectural knowledge that I have gained through the course also helps me, for example, when I have friends who are now trying to build projects, right, to advise them a bit in many aspects for what they're building. So yeah, it was very, very helpful.
Wonderful. And Alexandra, over to you. We have one of the questions in the chat box. Some people won't be able to attend for January, and they're wondering, what is the cadence of the academy? When could they expect another one after Wave 2 to potentially occur?
So yeah, so the academies are going to be happening on a yearly basis, and most likely we're going to be having at least 2 academies happening every year. So please do apply, or at least indicate that you are interested, and then we'll definitely send you information as soon as applications for the next one are going to be open. So most probably later in 2023, and you can join then. We'll be moving the academy on different continents. As you have seen, we had one in Cambridge. We're going to be having in Buenos Aires this time around. So yeah, we'll make sure that we cover as many locations as possible so that people from all over the world can participate.
Wonderful. And everyone, we have a new speaker, Sean Tabrizi, who is a previous Academy instructor and current Academy instructor. Sean, can you discuss how deep do we go into the topics at the Academy?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to prepare these students to be core developers at the end of the day. Like, we want to hire them ourselves or hire them into the parachain teams. So we go quite a bit deeper than you might expect from a normal blockchain course, because not only do you need to like understand the material, but we need to wield that material, execute it, and use it to actually develop new stuff, right? The truth is, one of the important things to know about the academy, like we touch things like cryptography and economics. Like the goal at the end of the program is for you not to be a cryptography major or economics major or whatever, like that kind of stuff. It's just to understand enough about the content to be able to wield it where it's useful. So yeah, we go really deep, but also we are sensible in the fact that we have only a limited amount of time, and that we prepare you with the material that's only like really relevant for you in terms of actually doing the development. And I'll be honest, like as a developer in the ecosystem for the last 4 years or so, there were even new things I learned during the academy from other instructors, which was super helpful and super great. But it also kind of shows that you don't really we would go even a little bit deeper than everything you would need right out of the gate. Like we want to make sure that there's information which facilitates a deeper understanding of the material, but end of the day, we want to just prepare people to be strong blockchain developers in the future.
Wonderful. And Kian, what should someone focus on right now if they really want to be sure to secure a place in the future in the academy with some degree of certainty?
So if you want to get started, like you can already get started with pretty much everything that we're going to teach in the academy yourself ahead of time, if that's what the question is implying, like what they can prepare by what they can do in order to come to the academy more prepared, or was it more about getting admission? I'm not sure if I'm answering.
Sorry, I believe about getting admission.
Getting admission. Okay. Well, maybe Alexandra could then fill in a little bit better about the admission criteria. But as far as I know, with when it comes to the admission, the main criteria is to be a good software developer and capable of learning the things that we want to teach you. So I actually don't think there's I don't have much to say on that front. I was going more in the direction of how you can come to the academy to be more prepared. I think I'll leave it to someone else who might know better to exactly specify the admission criteria. I'm not sure if I would know them correctly.
Alexander, would you like to maybe touch on that?
Yes, absolutely. In terms of the admission criteria, of course, the knowledge of Rust is very important. We talked about it before. So whenever it comes to the admission process, what is happening? You're submitting your application. You're going to be having an interview process, and then after the interview, you're going to be having a Rust exam if you have been successful in the interview. And then after the Rust exam, we'll see whether you will be accepted or not. So of course, definitely do brush up your Rust knowledge, but also having had previous work is important. But we're also looking at developers who are new to the Web3 space. So if you are a talented developer in Web2 and want to move to Web3, I think the Academy is going to be a great place for you. Sean, I don't know, do you want to add anything to it?
I would just say that I think I can't overstate the Rust. Rust preparation is probably the most key thing to probably having success in the course. For the first 2 weeks, we touched mostly on, at least before, we touched mostly on high-level concepts and things that were pretty, easy to get by without having to do a lot of programming. But I think one of the things that I would say that I noticed in the academy was that once we started actually doing Substrate and Polkadot and doing the Rust stuff, it got pretty deep pretty quickly. And I think that what we will do on our side is better prepare students with more Rust exercises throughout the course, even in those first 2 weeks. But what you can do as a student, maybe going into the course or trying to join the course, is to really try to make sure as much as possible your Rust chops are there. Because while it is true the expectation isn't that you are a Rust pro and that we will teach you a lot of things that specific to Substrate and Rust, you do need to you probably will be doing a big benefit to yourself to become familiar with the Rust compiler, Rust itself, just how to play with and use these tools. Because if you're spending time at the academy, both learning Substrate and Polkadot and all the other stuff, and learning Rust for the first time, it's probably going to be overwhelming.
Wonderful. Thanks, Sean. We have a few more questions here. I wanted to remind all of you that I had mentioned that potentially there'd be time at the end for Q&A. We still have a bunch of questions here that we gathered on social and as well. So if you do have a question, please make sure to post it here in the lower right-hand corner. Again, you see this chat box and now the number 16. Go in there, type your question, and we'll make sure to answer any question that is type there before the end of this space. So if you have any burning questions, make sure to post them there so that you get all your questions answered before the space is up. Next question we have is for you, Sean. Will there be any coursework involved, or is it entirely lecture-based?
Oh, we want there to be. There's a lot of coursework involved, and we want even more in this next round. I think that at least I have a belief. I think other people share this belief that you can only learn by doing. You can of course read a book about how to build an engine or whatever, but until you actually put your hands on some metal, right, you're not actually know that you actually know that material. So definitely our final exam, this last academy, was to build a working blockchain with a brand new runtime, with things like, we had like DEXs and new governance models, stuff like that, that users actually built end to end. So yeah, we will have lots of exercises throughout the course and some final exams, all which require you to be hands-on and building actual working stuff.
Wonderful. And Alexandra, is there going to be any sort of certificate, or what do participants get at the end of the academy?
Yes, we are definitely having certificates. It is going to be acknowledged, and we also have a lot of our alumni posting their certificates within the profiles on LinkedIn as well. So yes, it is very well worth it.
Great. And will there be a version of this course on edX or Coursera? Is that in future plans?
Well, the Polkadot Blockchain Academy is an in-person event and is intended to be so. So the academy is not available on Coursera and is not planned to be available on Coursera or edX in full. We are working on a Rust course, a video course to teach Rust tailored to Substrate developers. And that's going to be really, really useful as well for future academy waves, for those who want to familiarize themselves with Rust and be up to the standard that is needed for the academy.
Great. And both to you, Sean and Kian, why did you guys decide to be instructors in the academy? Maybe let's start with you, Kian.
I've always liked teaching, like since high school, maybe. So I think when I first heard the idea of this academy, I signed up, and even though I think most of the instructors kind of signed up for a second job when they agreed to this, I really thought that I definitely want to try it, and I'll be in the second wave as well. It seems like I'll be around. Yeah, I think my personal interest in teaching has been the motivation to try and scale it a little bit further and onboard even more people beyond the people that I can already reach within Parity or within the ecosystem through our conferences, and hopefully see more Substrate developers around in a few years. I imagine if I participate as an instructor a few more times, and a few dozen people learn the skills that I have, I think that will be a pretty worthwhile reason to do this.
And what about you, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even really see it as an option. I mean, if my passion in life right now is definitely to try to push forward this Web3 vision. Like, that's why I left my previous job and kind of joined Parity kind of at a very more risky, unknown time, right? And I really want to make this stuff happen. And the day-to-day problem that we face in this space is that there's just not enough people who can execute on the vision that we want to do, right? If we just had more hands to build it, then we can actually build it faster and better. And so there's a certain point where you have to think about the short-term and long-term gains. Of course, if I just spent my time just writing more code, in the short term, we would get maybe a little bit further. But if I can instead invest my time into training and educating other individuals to help push things forward, the long-term compounding effects is going to be immense. So I really think that there is no other choice than to help educate others right now to really bring the next wave of Web3 developers that we need to execute on this vision.
Wonderful. And Alexandra, will there be any activities after the academy that seek to engage and further support the developers in their journey in Substrate and Polkadot?
Yes, absolutely. We have the Academy alumni, and we're doing a lot of support work for the Academy alumni. It's very, very important to us to make sure that we support our students, the alumni, in their efforts to learn more, to be more engaged within the community, within the Polkadot system. And we are having meetups and upskilling opportunities for them, and lots of really interesting initiatives coming up.
Great. And Sean, what are the dates of the academy?
Oh gosh, great question. I think it's January 10 to 1 month later. the way I would find out is I would go to polkadot.network/academy. And I would see the beautiful website there, and it says January 10th, February 10th. So I will be there the whole time, and I'm really excited to be hanging out in Argentina.
Wonderful. And what does the curriculum look like?
Is that to me as well?
Yes, sorry.
Yeah. We have right now 8 modules. The first half of the course, so I want to say this, even this is the Polkadot Blockchain Academy. I think, and I don't know, maybe some of the students can speak up on this, but I honestly do believe that we take a pretty, as much as we can, non-Polkadot biased approach to teaching stuff. So our first 4 modules, which is cryptography, economics and game theory, core blockchain concepts, and substrate, all of those concepts I think are pretty much Polkadot agnostic. Like, we teach these things without ever really referencing anything specific to Polkadot protocol, or things that are specific to Polkadot in general. Like, these are things that you could, if you just did those first 4 courses, go to any blockchain team and in the entire ecosystem, the entire world, and have useful information. Once we jump past substrate, we talk about frame and palettes, Polkadot, parachains and cumulus, smart contracts, and cross-consensus messaging. That's where we start having much more opinionated lectures about Polkadot itself and how you would design systems for Polkadot, right? And the principles that help Polkadot be Polkadot the best it can be, right? And so yeah, so we have 8 modules. I talked about all of them already. The first ones are, I think, quite Polkadot agnostic, but then we jump into Polkadot really deeply. And yeah, I think it makes a really good mixture of knowledge information. And I think one of the main things we want to do as we teach stuff about Polkadot is not be prescriptive. We don't want to say this is how it is because it's that way. We want to, through the previous sections, explain, well, these are decisions people can make. Whenever you make a decision in the blockchain space, you're making a trade-off, right? Like, you pick A or B because there's trade-off for A, trade-off for B. So when we actually get to talk about Polkadot itself, we want you to be able to make those decisions yourself and be able to come to the same conclusions that we've came to in terms of designing our protocol.
Great. And maybe let's go to some previous alumni. Speaking of the curriculum of the Academy, what was some of your favorite courses? What are one of the things that now, since so much time has passed, do you remember learning and were maybe stuck out the most to you? Let's start with you, Angelo.
Sorry, I couldn't really hear that. It's pretty choppy. Maybe it's my connection.
Oh, sorry. No, it could be me. Can you hear me now, though?
Am I cutting up? Sorry, I really can't
Emily,
hear.
Sorry, Sean.
You're perfectly clear to me, so I think it's Angela.
Okay, then maybe why don't we go to you, Zoe?
Yes, can you repeat the question?
Yes. So speaking of the curriculum of the Academy itself, what was one of the courses that maybe stuck out to you that you enjoyed learning about, or after a few months have passed now, you still remember?
Oh, wow, there are actually quite a few. I think the kind of economics one was very fun because it was very interactive, because we were learning about game theory through actual games, right, where we would get paired up with other students. So that made it really fun. And then after playing those games, we would have a discussion, with the teacher about behavioral economics, right? So that definitely is something that I remember. But I think also the cryptography courses were, for me, they were very interesting. And yeah, they were, for me, that I do remember those quite a lot.
Great. And Francisco, what about you?
Well, I also liked the game theory one. I think I've always heard that term, that subject before, but I never really learned much about it or got much into it. And also learning about collective decision making was really interesting, because we discussed things that I never thought about, like different criteria to determine if a particular collective decision making mechanism is good, quote unquote, or bad. And the conclusion was that like it's not such an easy thing to like make decisions as a collective, which was really surprising to me. Also, cryptography, as I said previously, I learned some concepts that really blew my mind and really got me excited to learn more about them. So I've been reading more about them. So I definitely remember those. It was really fun.
Great, thank you. Alexandra, there was a question here about, is there rest time during the academy? If we go to Buenos Aires, do we get to see Buenos Aires at all?
Yes, you'll definitely have resting times. There will be weekends where you can enjoy and just rest. So yeah, you'll have time to really explore the areas as well. We'll have also social activities throughout these weeks at the academy, because we also understand that it's an intensive course and we want to make sure that you also have time to rest and to re-energize. And I think Angelo's back online, so maybe he can also take the question about what he enjoyed learning in the courses in Wave 1. Angelo?
Angelo needs to be made a speaker.
I think he didn't join as a speaker yet.
We have another question. Angelo, if you're in here, request to be a speaker in the lower left-hand corner, and I'll add you, and we'll make sure to get to that question before we end here. There was another question, Alexandra, about will accommodation be covered, but maybe I thought since we could cover as a whole, like what is covered once you apply, or what costs will attendees need to occur themselves?
Yes, thank you. So we really much believe in sharing the knowledge, and also as Sean and Gian addressed it before, it's a really crucial time to make for the growth in the blockchain space. So that's why we are actually extending a very generous scholarship, and we are covering accommodation costs, and the course, the tuition fees are covered, and some of the catering is also covered. So actually the students would need to make sure they pay for the flights and also some of the catering costs, but most of the other costs will be covered by the academy.
Wonderful. So that's actually it for our questions. We have 3 minutes left. So if anyone in this call has a burning question, you can request to speak right now, and we will take it as one final call before we end here.
I think an interesting question that someone asked in the comments is if there will be more academy cohorts after the second one.
Yeah, Alexandra briefly touched on that, but Sean, do you maybe want to add anything there? Are there going to be more academies?
Sean, you're muted again. I think you unmuted yourself for a bit.
I think, he had to just drop really quick there. Let me see really quick if he joins back again. Yes, here. No worries. Someone had asked, will there be future academies after Buenos Aires?
Oh yeah, I mean, my understanding is that we'll try to do 2 or 3 a year, something like that, and keep it going, for a while. And I think, I mean, I would actually hope that maybe one of these cohorts, once we have the schedule, like, the program really locked down, might be like a cohort targeted specifically at instructors. And then we could maybe even multiply this and have multiple cohorts running in parallel around the world. I don't want to speak on behalf of the education team. I know that sounds like a very big initiative, but like, I think that the idea here is for this to be something that really can grow exponentially. The reason, I think, in my mind, the reason why we have this be kind of an in-person course with a limited number of people is that we're still working on the material. Like, it's we are still refining and tuning exactly the best ways to teach these things. And one of the best ways to get feedback is just to be there in person, to hear and see firsthand how people react and how people process and ingest this information. So I suspect over time we will get really good at this. And our goals will be just to scale it up.
Wonderful. And on a last note, it was asked at the beginning, but I just want to make sure if anyone new turned in heard it. Alexandra, can you remind everyone the application deadline?
Yes, so the application deadline is basically applying as quickly as possible. We'll definitely be closing the applications mid-November, but also as soon as we get the 75 students. So I would really encourage everybody to apply now to have a chance to secure a place at the Academy.
Wonderful. Thank you to everyone who tuned in. Thank you to our previous blockchain alum, Angelo, Francisco, and Zoe. Thank you to our instructors, two of our mini instructors, but Sean and Kian. And thank you to Alexandra, who is on the education team here at Parity, who's leading this initiative. Again, a ping to this Twitter space is actually a tweet about the Academy, a tweet thread. You can go there and also see the link to the Academy landing page. But in case you forget, it's polkadot.network/academy. There you will find all information you need, even down to who are the instructors and a video from the previous cohort and what to expect and who it's for, and even FAQ in case you missed this. This recording will be made available for the next 30 days, so you can always tune back in case you joined late, or even if you left early. Again, the Academy will be January 10th to February 10th, 2023 in Buenos Aires. And as Alexandra mentioned, make sure to get your applications in as soon as possible. They will close the application deadline by mid-November, but definitely get it in sooner rather than later so you can secure your spot. There is limited seats at 75 people. Thanks again to everyone who tuned in, and we look forward to seeing you on the community call next week.